Oh, good morning, Ooh, now I can breathe. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another mediocre episode of Network Admin Life. Grace and peace to you from our Lord Jesus Christ. Um, as you know, I do work at a hospital, so I'll just say something real initially about COVID-19, since we are still in the throes of the pandemic. Over the last week, our hospital population of people with COVID-19 that are hospitalized. It's dropped in half. So we went from a peak of 8 down to 4. So they talk about flattening the curve. Yeah, our curve is basically dropping off. So there's still a lot of people infected with COVID-19 that we're finding. None of them require hospitalization. Several of them were asymptomatic, meaning they didn't show any symptoms at all. I don't know why here in California it's different than New York, but we're just not as hard hit, even though we have some pretty big population centers nearby. So yeah, so anyway, all that to say that I hope this lockdown that everybody else is experiencing will end soon. I've been very blessed and fortunate to be deemed an essential worker, and I've been working through this whole crisis. But there are a lot more people out there that were deemed non-essential by the government. Something else I don't agree with. I believe everyone in our society is essential. Everyone needs to work. Everyone needs to contribute. So all that to say, I hope everybody goes back to work soon, and my thoughts and prayers are with everybody that's been impacted by it. That being said, there's been some interest out there. Start sharing my screen. There's been some interest out there about what I use to monitor my network. And as I've stated before, I use a product called Intermapper. And this is, let me pull up this one. This is basically what Intermapper looks like. You define a server, and then you start defining these maps here. Each one of these is a separate map of different things that I monitor on my network. A lot of these are kind of redundant because they're just different views of all the same things. But basically, this is what Intermapper looks like. So you define the devices that you want to monitor, and you select the icon and all that good stuff. You start building a map. It can build it for you, but it doesn't end up looking like anything recognizable. It assumes that you want everything placed in a star topology. And so you'll give it you can define like a core router or some sort of root seed device, and it'll go through and it'll walk all the routes in that device and start scanning subnets and adding devices on its own. I don't really like to do that, but you can, especially if it's a brand new network and you haven't really done anything on it, don't really know what's out there. You can start Intermapper in like a scan mode. Like it'll go out there and discover everything for you and give you logically how it's put together. Or I like to group mine not quite physically, but close to physically. So, and I'm sorry this map is so small. It's just I have that many devices I need to monitor. So like up here, I'll have this. This is one building that we call the towers. Over here is our admin areas. Here is some of our clinical areas. I have a few more clinical areas down here. And then from this device in the middle all the way down over here is our main hospital. We have our remote clinics, we have our engineering areas, and then we have our IT areas right here, including the internet way over here. So that's just how I grouped my network. So that's, when you kind of network administrator are you? What do you manage? This is what I manage. And Intermapper helps me do that. So obviously green is good. Everything's in the green, almost everything. This guy over here is in a warning mode, it's yellow. So green is good. It means everything's functioning normally. I will slow down and talk normally. Yellow is a warning. It's seeing something on there that it doesn't like. So you can right click it and pull up the status window to see what it is. Down here it says short-term packet loss is 3%. So something I will investigate later, or it may clear up on its own. And then, like I said, if it turns red, that means it's got either a high rate of errors or is unreachable. So yeah, so yellow's warning, red's urgent. You can configure Intermapper to send out email alerts on practically anything you can monitor. You can have it alert you either on a specific threshold or just up, down. Right now, all these devices, I just have them send me an email if they go up, or send me an email if they go down, and send another email if they come back up. Because if it's come back up, I don't necessarily want to rush back out there to see what happened. If it's up, it's working, I'll investigate it later. If it's down and it stays down, then I need to rush out there, figure out what's going on. So this is what it looks like after you've done all the work. How do you do all this? Let me pull up, I'm just going to create a new map. Go down here to create a new map. There. And you can have multiple Intermapper servers. That's why you have the option of adding a server. So theoretically, you could have servers all over the country and connect whatever server you want. We're nowhere near that big. We don't need that. So I'm going to say let's do a new map. I'll just call it temp for now because I'm not going to keep this. So here's what I was telling you. You can either do auto discovery, where you give it an IP address of like a seed router or your core device. Like it says here, it'll scan the subnets and routers for the devices that are attached on that. Every new device, it'll scan that device to see if there's any route tables in it. And and then it creates what I call the angry dandelions. So I actually did this on my network to begin with. And what we basically had, let me cancel this for a second. Basically had was this device here and this device here connected by this link. That's fine. But all these devices around it, just in a perfect circle. So I basically had, it looked like a barbell. So we had two stars connected by these two devices in the middle. Star network topologies, but really they looked like dandelions, looked like Siamese dandelions, because the switches were all just ringed around the two core devices here, and it was unreadable. So yeah, all that to say, you can do that, but to me it wasn't really useful. I guess you can do that and then take a lot of time to arrange everything. So that's auto discovery. Manual entry is what I use most of the time. Type in as I discovered things on my network, I would come in and just add a new device to the network. So manual entry is what I do. You can also import a file. If you have a file of all the IP addresses, you can do that. I've never done that. It's available to you. Here we go. This is where you tell it what device you want to add. So I'm just going to use this little switch I have here on the table. And I'm just going to add that. Probe type. You can define many different types of probes in Intermapper. So automatic means it's going to check basically these four to see which one it should use. Map status is basically it checks an entire map to see if it's up. So I could set up a probe on another map that checks the status of this map that's here in the background. And as long as everything's up on that, then the map status icon will show as green. So it's kind of a way to create like a dashboard of your network. You don't have to or of all your maps. So you don't have to go in and check each map. It'll just give you an overall status. Yeah, everything on this map is up, everything on that map is up, so on and so forth. Ping echo probe is just that. It just pings the device to see if it's there, if it replies. I actually do use this quite a bit on devices that I don't manage. So like vendor devices where they either are unwilling or unable to provide me SNMP credentials to monitor their device. I'll just do a ping echo probe on their device just to see if it's up. And then SNMP traffic is what I use most of the time on my network devices, because that's really all I'm concerned with. Just traffic, packets per second, bandwidth, that sort of thing. Then there's a whole bunch of SNMP probes you can go through and use. We have some specific network device probes. This one, well, I've never really used that one. Actually, this is fairly new, and Terasys has never really been all that popular. And they're now called Extreme help systems. But you can see that you've got Juniper, Cisco, Apple, oh, Airport, okay. Cisco, there's several probes you can choose from. Let's see, I've never really looked under the UPS. Here's some of the types of UPSs you can monitor. Server probes, so you can monitor a specific type of TCP port, Telnet or SMTP. You can check to make sure that it's not accepting connections or is accepting connections. You can set up a TCP, what you're going to send, what you expect back. If you want to set up your own DNS, FTP, Gopher. Does anybody even really use Gopher anymore? I'm not really sure. Tell me in the comments. I'm not really sure. I've never even used Gopher. SNMP host resources is kind of nice if you've got SNMP set up on your device. Let's see if I can. Come on, can I? No, it's not gonna let me pull that down. Pull it up here. So you can on a server, you can have it check, processor load, disk usage, memory usage, things like that, which is really kind of cool. So if you have a server that periodically runs low on disk space, you can set an alarm to send you an email or have it just flash the icon on the map. There's a whole bunch of more warning modes that you can set, or notification modes. So there's email, there's text, have it send a text, and that's really it. And just have it alert you on the map where it'll play that Star Trek-y red alert warning, audible warning. So anyway, you can see there's a ton of different host resources you can monitor for on your servers. There's some proprietary stuff that they've put in, like in Dartware. That's who used to make this. That's their legacy name. I believe it's Help Systems now. But there's some specific stuff you can monitor for in Citrix and FileMaker Pro, in case there's still a big FileMaker or Lotus Notes installation out there somewhere. Microsoft, there's a few specific probes for Microsoft. Let's see, the Nagios probe, if you're into that. Let's see, wireless. What do we got for wireless here? Nothing I use. But if you use any of these wireless brands, maybe there's something useful for you in there. And then they have some experimental probes that I've never used. Frankly, I've never used any of these. There you go. There's some WMI probes. Set WMI up on your servers, you can do that. So yeah, for me, I live basically right up in these two right here, SNMP and basic. And 99% of the time, this is my go-to probe. So I have my SNMP v3 credentials in there for my specific server. You can do SNMP 1, 2, or 3. Up to you. I suggest you use 3. So anyway, long probe discussion is done. So right now I'm just going to leave this as automatic, and I'm going to go ahead and tell it to import this switch, add this switch right here. So right now it's going through and it's discovering the switch. It's trying to figure out which probe to use the best. And in a few seconds here, it'll come up. It's come up orange instead of green. So why is that? Let's take a look. Status window. No SNMP v3 response. Well, that is because I never set up SNMP v3 on this switch. So what can I do about that? Oh, actually, I guess I did. It just took a while. So it's done a preliminary probe. It just took a little longer than I thought it would. Sorry about that. SNMP v3 it was able to eventually log in via SNMP v3. So if you look at the status window, everything is good now. So it's telling me its IP address, its availability, any packet loss. Sometimes it'll lose packet loss. There'll be some packet loss during the initial discovery. So just kind of ignore that to begin with. And it just basically tells you everything it knows about it. So I'm a very visual person. I don't like this whole blocky look thing. So you can actually come in here and set different kinds of info about the thing. Oh no, where is it? It's format, sorry. So you can either format the label on it, which right now it's just the smart name. It goes through and looks at the SNMP system ID, or it'll pull it in DNS to see what the DNS name is. It uses SNMP in our case. So, and there's different tags you can add to just display different types of data. System location, system contact. That's the label that'll appear with this device. So there's a system name, there's no system location. Here's a system contact, which is still the default. But that's kind of ugly. So what can we do about that? We're going to go down and format the icon. There's different libraries of shapes you can use. There's built-in shapes, which these are basically just for the ends of the line, as I call them. Here's the line that gets built, the wire. So these are the ends of the wire. This over here. This is an oval. This is a rectangle. We don't have a cloud in there. So to make this a little more descriptive, you can go through and select from Intermapper's built-in icons. So if this is a switch, I could choose this as a switch icon. Say OK. There's an icon for a switch. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Format shape. Icon, format icon. So that's really not the type of switch icon I like to use. There's some others in here. That's still kind of ugly. So I generally use the Cisco icons, and I happen to know that the one I want to use is right here. So I'm going to select this one, the Cisco Workgroup Switch. That looks more like a switch to me. And you can format it and say, I want the label, format label. I'm going to get rid of this stuff because it's not really helpful to me. I can have just the name there. That's kind of ugly too, so I can say format label position. I want the label on the left side. There you go. But as you can see in my drawing back there, what I do is Intermapper by default just tells you what subnet it's on. And that's okay, but not really useful. So I like to see what the uplinks are. What is the uplink? What is the downlink? What interface am I connecting back to the core on this switch? So we can come here to the interfaces window. And I'm going to tell it to display numbered interfaces, which is basically display them all. There they all come. Now, when I get rid of this window, you can see there's a bunch of interfaces there, and a lot of them show disconnected. And now the status window is we've got a bunch of stuff down. So I don't want to monitor all those. We go back to the interfaces window. And I'm just going to go through, I'm going to sort by which interfaces I want to show. So I'm going to click on show. And then I'm just going to start deselecting a lot of these. And I'm just going to display my uplink, which is port 12. Get rid of all the rest of these. The virtual routers, I don't need to see. The VLANs, I don't need to see. I just want to see my uplink. So there we go. And I'm going to just delete this, get that out of there. So here's my uplink. But if I were to SSH into the switch, I would not find a port 1012. So Intermapper by default displays the port number, and the internal logical port number in Extreme is 1012. But that's not what I would actually address that port as in the configuration. If I was working with it, that's not what it would be. So Extreme uses interface name, basically. I'm not sure if Cisco does or not. You'd have to play around, and it might be port name on Cisco. I know it's interface name on Extreme. If I've aliased the port, I would want to use interface alias. Or I could. So any alias that I had defined on that port would also show up there. So I'm just going to use interface name for right now. There you go, 1:12. That's the port. That's my uplink. So then I would just go through and add my other devices in here. What switch is this connected to? Go through the same thing. What interface is this device connected on? I would add it in. I tend to do things the long way. That's kind of labor intensive, I know. Like I said, you could also do a auto discovery and then just rearrange it yourself. So where do I get this software? Who makes it and all that good stuff? So there you go. It is made by, where is it? Help Systems, helpsystems.com. So let's just see, I'm gonna pull up Chrome here. Help Systems Intermapper. So they do offer a 30-day free trial. So if you wanted to download it and just play around with it, you could do that. They want your email so they can call you and ask you if you're going to buy it. That's okay. But yeah, this is the company that makes it, and you can go through here and just go through their sales literature for Intermapper. And they've got a lot of people that have built some really cool and imaginative maps. Intermapper. So helpsystems.com. Go to their network monitoring section. One thing I didn't really go into here, I guess I could just real quick. This is kind of getting long, but because there's just so much to Intermapper. If you use SFlow in your network, you can also define SFlow in Intermapper and define a collector and point it at your device that's exporting SFlow. So I have done that on my core switch, and it'll pull in SFlow data. So I can see who my top talkers are. I can dig in and see, you know, lots of different things. Top ports, top VLANs, top sessions. So that's kind of handy to know sometimes. And when all of a sudden the internet bandwidth just drops, and you figure out why is the internet so slow, you can go in here and see, well, who's doing all the talking right now. So can be pretty handy at times to do. So SFlow is another handy feature of Intermapper. And of course, all these things are add-on costs. I guess I should talk real quick about licensing. So Intermapper server is, it's got one license level. You'll have to go in there and look and see how much it costs. What I am using to connect to the server, so Intermapper server, you can connect to it either by web page. You can view this as a web page, or you can log into the server itself and use Intermapper to set all this up. What I am using is a product called Intermapper Remote Access. This runs locally here on my laptop, and it connects to the server. I should have said that to begin. This is actually client software. So it connects back to the server, and I can make all the changes to the maps from here. And I think by default, I think the first license level is 1 to 5 maps. So you can, if you buy a license for Intermapper Remote Access, I believe you get 5 to begin with. So you and 5 of your closest friends can create maps. So anyway, that got kind of long and got kind of into the weeds, but I just wanted to give you you know, quick look at Intermapper and how it all works. So there you go. That's Intermapper. I hope you found that useful and informing, and give you some ideas. If you don't have any other ideas to monitor your network, you can look into that. There's tons of monitoring softwares out there. You know, SolarWinds is another big one. And there's a lot of open source free stuff that if you're the do-it-yourself type, you can save a lot of money doing that. Just get support online from the community that creates it. MRTG came out years and years and years ago. That's what a lot of people use. And a lot of network software has been built on MRTG. So that's another option. But again, a lot of that stuff can be labor intensive if you build it yourself. But you know, that's okay. You got to depend. I work at an organization that has more money than time, so I went with Intermapper. I like it also because of its self-documenting nature. I don't have to maintain a separate network diagram from my network monitoring software, because this does it both. When they say, hey, we need a network diagram, well, fine, I just go into my network map here, and I print it out, give it to them. So I didn't show you, but some of the other maps I had created. You know what? Just real quick, it's already gone long. Why not? Let's just go longer. Share the screen out again here. So some of the other maps I've created, when I talked about being creative, how some people have been creative with their maps. You'll see here I have some of them are labeled floor plan. I'm gonna have to be patient because sometimes these can take a little while to come up. And I'm gonna want to auto that one. In a minute, all these little dots are gonna make more sense. What I've basically done is you can import background images for your maps. So guess what I imported? So this is our hospital's first floor plan. And I did this, I created this map for our help desk people. So when I'm off site and they say, hey, you know, there's a switch down And I can show them this map, and they can look at the red, and I can say, yeah, you see where that red switch is? Go to that room in the hospital and check and make sure it's got power. Because here, when we have a switch go down 99.9% of the time, it's UPS has failed, or engineering is working on power in the room and they disconnected us inadvertently. And you have a number of things, basically all related to power. So this is one of the creative floor plans that one of the creative maps I did. I've created one for every floor in the hospital, and I'm starting to create one for every building on our campus. So again, just for the help desk crew, so I can direct them where to go. The server guy created a bunch of, let's see which one is the one he'd want me to show you. Let's see, we'll just do our Vocera servers. So he created this to monitor his Vocera servers. They'll alert on disk space, disk utilization, or CPU utilization. You can alert on network utilization if you want. So that's our Vocera servers. That, and there's been some that I've created basically just as a specific application that I want to know how it works, like our recording PC, how it works. We got a PC that records all incoming ambulance calls, and this is how that application workflow works. Let's see what else. This is one that I created. I don't even monitor any of these switches because, well, this one's mine, but I don't need to monitor it because I monitor it elsewhere. But I just created this diagram of devices that don't even monitor, so I would know what's there. These aren't my devices. I can't monitor them anyway. They're owned by the county, but they're on my turf, as you could say, and some of my data does go across them. So this is just one I created just as kind of to take some notes, figure out where things were so I would know they were there. So that's what I mean about how Intermapper just not only monitors my network, but it helps me document it. And any of these can be printed out. I can print it to a PDF, or I can print it to a regular printer. You know how printing works. I don't have to explain that to you. So anyway, yeah, okay. I just real quick, I want to go back through and show you some of the other stuff I do. So, all right, I promise. That's it. A long rambling discussion of Intermapper is over. I hope you found that informative or entertaining. And if you're still here, God bless you for sitting through all this. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. Have a great day. God bless. We'll catch you later.